You know, you heard some of the callers the last hour, those of you who were here. And we get these kinds of calls all the time. The liberals pretend that they're independents. Oh, I consider both sides. And then, you know, they reveal themselves. They can't help it. But really, you have to sit back and think, right? The country financially is in disastrous shape. And their hero, who they voted for, wants to spend even more than he spent before. Well, how does that work? Which means the Fed's going to print more than it's ever printed before. Well, what happens when that happens? And no matter how many times you show them the statistics, the facts, that no amount of tax increases on anybody can keep up with this kind of spending, they just keep repeating themselves. Do these people not have children? Do they not have grandchildren? I'm going to tell you something, and I mean this. Conservatives are smarter than liberals. I'm not necessarily talking about IQs. I'm talking about the ability to reason, to apply knowledge, to learn from experience and history. Just much smarter. Conservatives have to actually think things through and explain things, liberty and the rule of law and the economic system. If you're a liberal, you just blurt stuff out. What's the best tax rate? Which is why I went through this exercise last hour. The Nixon rates. Why? Nixon. They ought to cut this and cut that. And, of course, the area I'm in, I'm a government contractor, dredging, we're underfunded. So, to be a conservative, to believe in liberty, you have to be more informed and more intelligent and more knowledgeable than to be a liberal. Because a liberal can say anything that blurts out of their mouth as they burp it out. We have to cut defense. Defense has been cut like never before. Doesn't matter. It's a mantra. They've been saying it for 50 years. Cut defense, cut defense. They're like parakeets. Cut defense. Okay. What about the other 82, 85% of the federal budget? Now, what about it? Tax the rich, the top 2%. Even when I go through math, they don't understand math. Or they don't want to believe math. Can't cut the public schools. My kids went to public schools. I'm saying, you can't cut them. No, can't do that. Let's slash Medicare in order to fund Obamacare. Why? Well, because they support Obama. That's why. We've got a huge problem in this country. Huge problem. I don't really mind if liberals want to jump off a cliff, but I don't like them forcing me to jump off it with them. That's the problem. When they vote for national suicide, we don't get to opt out. And but just look at how they talk. Look at what they argue for. They're hostile to liberty. They're hostile to private property right. Their entire DNA is different than ours. They're put together differently than we are. For us, it's live and let live. For them, it's live and let live unless I want to steal from you. I deserve something from you even though I haven't earned it. And these politicians, this is why they're poison. Obama and these other left-wing politicians. They essentially argue that this is a moral case that the left is making, to steal money from somebody else. It's a moral case. You're compassionate. It's humane. When it's insanity. Or may I say, they're thinking of lunatics. Oh, I know, the House of Representatives just banned that word from all future whatever. But it's a perfectly legitimate word. Yeah, the Republican House of Representatives is now in the business of banning words. Go figure. So there really are two Americas. I've talked about this before, not in the John Edwards sense. There are two Americas. There are people who really get the Constitution, who really feel blessed to be in this country, when they sit down at the dinner table or at the lunch table during Thanksgiving, they really thank God that they're here, and they're thankful for the right things. And then there are those who have chips on their shoulder for whatever reason, or jealous or angry or feel put upon, and they are demanding that you work for them. Let me put it to you that way. They are demanding that when you go to work or when you run your business, whatever it is, whatever you do, drive a truck, till a field, work in IT, that somehow they own 50% of you. They own 50% of your working time. So the fruits of your labor becomes their fruits, even though they haven't earned it. Why? Well, because of some magical number. Well, they earned over 250. Oh, over 200. Well, what does that have to do with anything? What is the moral basis for laying claim on something you haven't earned? And people call here and they're indignant that we have a free country. They are indignant that people are successful. And this is why Obama won. I've concluded. Forget about amnesty. Forget about this race, that race. This is why he won. Because he tapped into the worst of human nature, not the best. His attacks on Romney and his promotion of his pandering and so forth, they were aimed at what you heard the last hour. There are millions and millions of people like this who think that you owe them, who think that they have ownership of some percentage of what you make. No, I'm only talking about the rich. The rich today is the middle class tomorrow, to talk in Marxist speak. And these people reject the American heritage. They resent it. They want nothing to do with it. And I'm going to go one step further. They're so selfish, they don't even pay attention to the future of their children and their grandchildren. Now, they may pretend that they do, but they know that a country can't remain on this course. They know that if we wring every $1 million out of a millionaire, that's not going to be close to enough. And yet they still are prepared, because they're selfish, they're piggish. They're still prepared to take this nation down and the future of their own children. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. Certainly not in America, anyway. This is what you and I are objecting to. This is what you and I are fighting. We are fighting a perverse psychology. That's what it is. It's perverse. A perverse psychology which is built on jealousy and hate, which is based on stealing and demanding, and yet they wrap it in compassion. That's what they call it. And they won the last election for president anyway. So, we have our work cut out for us. But these are not people, the people that I spoke to the second hour, they're not people I can convince. They're not people who are on the fence. These are people who despise this society. And they look at people who have more than they have, and they want the government to do something about that. And so they vote for people who promise that they will. It's a very vicious, hateful, negative, selfish ideology, if you can even call it that. Liberalism, statism. It's the worst of human nature. And you hear it when they call here, and you hear it when you talk to these people, and you hear it through their politicians.